right. We will go ahead and start the meeting today. So Rotary motto.
Service above self.
And why don't we go ahead and stand and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let me get back on screen here. Hang on just a second. Somehow I managed to lose my screen. Okay. All right, let's take a moment and this will be our moment of silence. Okay, thank you. And just a reminder, we are recording the meeting. Bill has started that up. And now for some good news. From Paul Strong, we'll get an update on the COVID situation.
Well, finally, the turnaround that we had been predicting for some time and hoping for soon has finally occurred. The cases have finally started dropping here on the Eastern Shore. Last week, the number of new cases in Accomack County was 105 as opposed to 137 the week before. In Northampton County, it was 29, down from 44 the week before. And in Cape Charles, only 5 new cases last week compared to 19 the week before. So, but keep in mind that the rate per 100,000, which is what the CDC uses to define a level of transmission risk, is still high everywhere. In our county, it's 247 new cases per 100,000 people. Keep in mind the CDC defines high transmission as over 100 in a week, which is what that these numbers are in a week. In Cape Charles, it's 103 cases per 100,000, and in Virginia as a whole, even though it's been dropping for 2 weeks straight now, is 223 cases per 100,000 people. So the per capita rate is still high, which means that your risk if you go out in public is still high. So don't drop your guard yet. But in all probability, based on what we've seen in the past, in most everywhere, when it starts dropping, it continues to drop. Sometimes not in a smoothly. Sometimes there's little bumps along the way, but right now it looks like the turnaround has finally occurred, and we're on a good path towards resolution in a few weeks. I will say also regarding the booster, Bill Murphy told me that he got his Moderna booster at Rural Health yesterday. I had been frustrated last week when I called to try to get an appointment because I got Moderna, and I couldn't get an appointment, but I called this morning and I got an appointment for this coming Thursday for my Moderna booster at Rural Health. So they worked me in. They first tried to give me an appointment next week, but actually it turns out I'm going on a trip leaving next Tuesday morning, so I won't make it to next Tuesday's meeting, nor the meeting after that, I'm afraid, for other travel plans. But I said, no, I can't do it then, but I'd love to, if you work me in, and they gave me an appointment this Thursday.
I have a few questions on the numbers. I think at the beginning of this whole situation, we were told we needed to get to herd immunity. And at the time, that was said to be at 60 to 70%.
Yeah, at the time, right.
Yeah,
Delta
immune.
changed that.
Okay, because we're at 56% fully vaccinated right now. And when you add in people that have had and recovered from COVID, we are at 66.5% immune.
Well, those are not independent sets. That is the number of people that have had COVID. A lot of those are in the vaccination pool also.
Okay. And then we still have 48 million people that are under the age of 12 and are not being vaccinated yet. And that works out to about 14.6% of the population that can't be vaccinated yet. So when you do the numbers, it comes out to about 20% of the people, 25% of the people still need to be vaccinated, but of that, 10% have at least one shot. So I think we're getting close to, if not there, the number that was put out as far as herd immunity. Am I wrong on that?
The original number that was put out for herd immunity was based on the original variant of COVID. And because the Delta variant is so highly contagious, the way that works is that the number needed for herd immunity is much higher because of the much higher contagion of the Delta variant. So nobody knows. I mean, it's always a guess as to what it really is, but it's probably closer to 90% that you need now for herd immunity for the Delta variant. And we don't know what's going to happen with variants that might come in the future.
Okay, well, if it's 90%, then I don't see how we can reach herd immunity because we have 14.6% of the people are under 12 years old and can't get vaccinated.
Right. We hope that that will be approved for them this winter, and that's what's anticipated. So we probably won't be able to reach herd immunity until next year sometime.
All right. And we're still dealing with these variants. When we deal with variants every year with the flu shots, it's every year back in the labs and come up with a new flu shot. Why isn't it the same for variants of COVID? Why are they not back in the labs coming up with a new shot for the Delta and now the Lambda variants?
Yeah, well, they are. They're working on developing vaccinations that cover the newer variants. They just haven't been haven't come out with them yet, and then they'll have to go through an approval process, just like the flu shot does.
Okay. Just one more item. It's sort of related. I tried to get arrangements for a flu shot, and CVS. I think, Bill, you were going to try and get a shot at CVS. And when I went online, it says they don't have any flu vaccines. So I couldn't schedule anything. Are you hearing about shortages of flu vaccines?
I haven't heard of any shortages. Mark
I
here?
got my flu shot at Walgreens.
What's that?
I will caution you. I think 2 years ago, I went to rural health and got a flu shot. And then I found out last year I called because then I became more aware than I had been before about the fact that the seniors need a higher dose.
Right.
And I called the rural health and I asked if they had the dose for seniors, and they didn't. I called Costco. I went across to Costco and got a senior dose. But be careful if you're a senior, which most of us are, that you don't that you go somewhere where you can get the the senior dose. Not important. Most places in my experience don't have it.
Walgreens
Walmart
has the
might wanna
senior,
address that.
Walgreens has the double dose.
I
I got
agree.
it. I got it last week at CVS up in Only.
Well, that's
My
where I
wife and I.
checked. That's where I checked online and I checked the box. I'm over 65 and it kicked back and says, we don't have any of the vaccine.
Like I said, I got it last week at in Only.
Yeah, and that's the one I checked at.
Are you
Wow, that's
sure you
weird.
got the senior dose, Stan?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
my wife's an RN, so that's what she asked for, and that's what we got.
Okay.
All right.
Sort of
Well,
according.
it could have been, I checked on Sunday, it could have been just a temporary situation where they were out. I'll check with them again.
I must have just slid in under the wire.
You took my dose.
Hey, wait, listen, you know.
I
First
wasn't
come, first
fast enough.
served.
Chuck, we have the
Okay.
high dose here. I don't know of any shortage of it. We have the high dose, the regular dose, and the medium dose. So
Well, excellent, because I have an appointment with you day after tomorrow, so I'm gonna get I'll get it there when I'm there then.
all right, I'll make sure they save one for you.
Okay, I appreciate it. All right, any other questions for Dr. Paul or Dr. Clark?
I was just going to mention that I have a friend who lives here part-time and lives in New York part-time. And she got the Moderna vaccine booster last week in New York. So apparently they're out now.
Okay,
So
So you
I
still
wanna-
have to wait 6 months?
No, she went in to see her pharmacist and they told her, I've been waiting for you. We have the high dose. She said, okay.
so we had a individual in Bay Creek who passed away from COVID a week ago yesterday,
Right.
Bill Hitchings. So he lives over in the Signature, so he did. But anyway, just wanted to pass that along.
was he an older gentleman?
74.
Bill, what was his address?
445 or something like that. He's the one that lives over on 14. The Fairway over there, a big old house that was built. Pretty big house.
Unfortunately, he was unvaccinated.
Oh, he was? He was or he wasn't vaccinated?
Was not.
Oh, well. Proves that theory.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we'll move on. Related is the a vote on meeting at the coffee house. Things are improving, as Dr. Paul said. We also want to get ourselves in a position where we're meeting, hopefully meeting at the coffee house for World Polio Day. So why don't we bring it up for a vote now? October 12th would be our next meeting. The one following that would be the 19th. Let's do October 12th first. Who's in favor of meeting in person?
Could I say first, just for
Yeah,
discussion
ahead.
before the vote, that my recommendation last week, and it's the same this week, is that we have our first meeting on October 26th in person. That gives us a chance to publicize it and really push everyone to come then. And I think the numbers would likely be good then, the COVID numbers. And we're not really pushing it. We're giving ourselves time to really let it be widely known that that's our first meeting.
Okay. And that would be one that you could make, right, Paul?
It would.
Okay, because you said the next two meetings, it sounds like you won't be able to make it. Okay. All right. Well, let's do this then. Who would be in favor of calling our first meeting on, let's see, that would be October, either
No,
the
I think
24th.
we ought to vote for next week and see where people are.
All right.
voting.
Okay, let's do that. October 12th, if we had a meeting at the coffee house, who's going to show up? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. It's like 7.
Did you count Diane?
Um,
No.
no, okay. And how about Bob? Bob, would you show up on the 12th?
I'll be out of town.
Okay. So I've got 7. So just for the heck of it, let's do the following week, which would be the 19th. Who would show up on the 19th?
No, I can't show up on 19th.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I've got 6. Randy, I don't have you in there then.
I won't be in town.
Okay. And then finally, the 26th would be 2 days after World Polio Day, but Bill Strand said that we could still do that and cover ourselves for World Polio Day. And Paul was recommending that date. So who would show up would actually be the 31st. The 26th is actually not a Tuesday.
Oh.
Yes, it is.
So, no, I'm sorry, it is a Tuesday. Okay. I'm messed up. Okay, the 26th, who would show up? All right, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11,
Me?
12. Okay, that's 12.
Right.
Okay.
That's good. And probably we pick up a few people that aren't on the Zoom meeting right now. So Paul, what's the next step in getting in touch with Roberta and
I'll
saying,
call her.
all right. So we should stipulate based on if things don't reverse themselves all of a sudden by that date. So if the trend continues the way it is, we would like our first meeting to be that date. Typically, that would be an evening meeting, but why don't we make that a daytime meeting? Do you agree?
I do.
I agree.
All right.
I do.
Okay, so that's a good deal. October 26th. And I'll be honest with you, I feel pretty good about this time. All
Is
right.
that at noon?
Yes, we'll make it at noon
Thank
at the
you.
coffee house. Hopefully we'll have a fairly decent day too.
While
All
you're
right.
feeling so good, Chuck, give me a horse at Arlington Park.
A course at Arlington Park.
Horse.
A horse to play.
Oh, okay. I don't have one for you. Okay.
I tell you, it's always the 4 horse, the 4 horse.
Stan's tip.
Fourth horse in the 4th race.
All right, and don't forget to send any suggestions for future speakers to Reggie. He's still looking for some and would like any help you could give him. Just give him pointers. It doesn't need to be nailed down. He can make the contact. So if you have a suggestion, if you have, hey, sure would like to hear from somebody regarding this subject matter, whatever it is, outer space, cooking, NASA space rockets, whatever. If you have something of interest and would like to hear a speaker on it, give Reggie some ideas. He can make the contacts and I can help him if he needs it. All right, projects. Tomorrow looks good and we're going to begin painting the roof of the caboose. Actually, we hope to get the entire roof completed. So we're going to meet tomorrow at 10 a.m. I think we have 2 or 3 people committed, but anyone is welcome to come and give us a hand. We have all the paint supplies. We're going to get that roof done and stabilized and ready. 10 o'clock, probably figure about 2 to 3 hours of work. And Bob Church, anything on the fire hydrants?
Nothing new. He just said he's waiting for the paint to come in, so hopefully something would happen sometime soon.
All right. And Bill, the Mary Ann Smith School, any news on that?
No new news. Everything's on track. Boys and Girls Club is moving in, and we're in good shape.
Okay. Well, let us know when they need some hands-on help. I don't know if they need hands-on help in moving in or whether they're paying somebody to get them moved in or whatever, but
No,
you know,
they're essentially in because we had to store everything there when the school system kicked us out. But
Oh, okay.
the help we'll need is real hammer and saw kind of stuff,
Okay.
painting, that sort of thing.
All right. Basket raffle, I'm not sure we have, oh, Joan, were you working on that with Medi?
I was not, but it is in the happenings and it's live. I know you can go to the website and you can order tickets online.
All right. And we don't have John Burtis here today. And the Invisible History, any updates on that? We have several members here that are part of that committee.
I think,
I
Bill,
don't-
go ahead, Bill.
What's that?
Bill, didn't you conduct the first interview?
Yeah, and we laughed ourselves to death last week. So
Yeah.
unless you want to laugh some more, but Medi has confidence in me. She has lined me up for another interview.
Ooh,
So my interview, the content was good. It was the mechanics around the interview that the geniuses, Reggie and Paul and Diane had put together that I screwed up on.
Okay. All right, awards chair. We're looking for that. And I'm just-
Before you go on, we've got a service thing going that I need to make a plea
All
on.
right.
Joan and Paul and Bill Murphy and Wayne Bell are working as the core of the town council forum. And that's scheduled, to remind you once again, it's going to be October 26th at 6 o'clock. And we're in great shape. It's going to be at the Civic Center. And while we'll have a live audience at the Civic Center, we'll also capture questions from online audiences via Facebook Live or our Rotary email facility. So we'll have a lot of opportunities to get good questions to the candidates, but we need volunteers. Paul Strong is going to be the timekeeper. Joan is going to be managing the Facebook Live facility, but we need somebody to work the audience, and that is run around the room, passing out 3x5 cards, and then for questions, and then collecting them back. It's a monkey can do it. It's really easy. So we need a volunteer for that. Plus, we need a group of volunteers who ideally do not live in Cape Charles to vet the questions that will be given to Wayne to ask the candidates. So we need, do I have a volunteer to run around the room with 3x5 cards? It's only an hour. Service above self. I mean, the next time you shout out service above self, you ought to look at your shoes. Thank you, Alan.
I'll do that. Yeah.
Alan's volunteering for the either collecting the cards or vetting the questions, Alan.
He lives in Cape Charles, so it'd have to be collecting.
You know, we're not, that's not gonna work. I don't care if you live in Timbuktu. We can't even get anybody to raise their hand living on the moon. So you can live in Cape Charles and vet the questions. That's the ideal, because, you know, if it was the county, we'd have, you couldn't say you have to live in Accomack to vet the
When does
questions.
that start?
6 o'clock, Alan. Did you write
6
that
o'clock.
down, Alan? 6 o'clock.
Okay.
And are
6
you
o'clock
going
at
to,
the Civic Center, okay.
are you going to do the 3x5 cards or work on the vetting team?
The 3x5 cards, I'm fine.
Okay, Alan,
Thank you, Alan.
thank you so much, Alan. We still need a couple of more volunteers, but if you can't bring yourself to service above self this week, oh, Reggie, did you volunteer? You're on mute, Reggie. Reggie?
Okay,
Reggie, no, I'd rather have you collect the e-addresses. I mean, the questions that come in on the Rotary's
Email address.
email address. Can you?
okay, I'll do
Okay.
that then.
So, and we're still, next week, we'll work on the vetting. But thank you so much. Chuck, sorry I took so much time.
That's all right. Just a couple of questions. Where is the Civic Center?
500 Tazewell.
Okay.
Hey, Bill, what's the date of this event again?
Okay, it's Tuesday, the night of our meeting that we have in person for the first time, the 26th of October.
Okay.
Is that
And-
because you want to volunteer, Al? You're asking?
Yeah, I can help with passing out cards or vetting questions.
Okay, I got you down for betting questions.
Thanks, Al.
Okay,
Thanks, Al. And look,
welcome.
I will follow up with everybody and we'll have a conversation about what your role is and all that. So don't sweat that. So
And one other question on the Facebook piece of this. I'm sure you're aware you get a lot of quacks and cranks and bothersome people that show up on there. Is this being, you're allowed in only when somebody lets you in? Or is it anybody that signs on and comes to that website, they're able to speak up and
no. First of all, they won't speak. They'll text and there'll be a vetting process. But Joan Natale is the expert. Joan, do you want to speak to that?
Based on my conversations with the town clerk, Libby Hume, the only people who will be looking at the Facebook Live streaming event in the Civic Center will be me. So if people talk, they'll only hear me. If they interrupt, I'll only see them. The two candidates will not have computer monitors in front of them. They will just be being videoed from a camera that goes to Facebook Live.
Okay. Okay.
Answer your question?
I think so. I've just seen some of these video conferences by Facebook and they get out of control sometimes. Okay.
What's involved with vetting the questions?
Just using your judgment that it's an appropriate question, is not, offensive. You want to eliminate duplications. And you would be a super candidate, Stanley, because you don't live in Cape Charles. Can I sign you up?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Thank you,
so-
Stan.
So you and Al are on the vetting team. And if we don't get another person next week, I consider myself the free safety in this circus, and I can help you guys out.
Great.
But hey, Stan, you're quite a guy. Love you, man. Al, love you, man.
Yeah.
right back at you.
And I'm going to throw
Okay,
out.
your check's in the mail.
I'm going to throw out a request to Al while we're talking about him. We've been talking weekly about scheduled highway cleanups. And Al, I was wondering if you would volunteer to take that on. It's basically once a quarter. I believe Paul can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's basically a phone call to VDOT to arrange to get the trash bags and other materials and get them, and then schedule a day. We have a highway cleanup, typically a Saturday. Get it done, lay the bags out, call VDOT, say the bags are on the highway, they come pick it up. Is that something you would be?
Yeah, I can do that. When is it, what's the next time that it's due to be done? Any time now?
We're overdue.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, so sooner rather than later.
Hey, and
All right.
Al, I will help you out even though I don't have a truck.
Well, I think I can procure a truck.
Yeah, your neighbor. We get John's truck.
Oh, yeah, my dad's got a pickup. I might be able to use it. He stopped driving and it's just sitting there, so maybe,
Oh, great.
but either that or John next door.
Yeah, but your dad is probably a good story. I will help you.
Thank you.
I will help you also. I will help you also, Al.
Awesome. Thank you all very much. And who has that information that can share who I need to call? All right, Paul, you're on. I'll give you a call.
All right, terrific. We can check that one off. Al, I knew I could depend on you. I knew it.
3 cheers for Al. Hooray!
All right, Al.
Hooray!
I'm not that good, honest.
Well, you're good at making phone calls, and Paul can give you that number, and you make a phone call to arrange it, and then you make a phone call to have them pick it up. So,
All right.
All right, and we already talked about the candidate forum. I had that on the list, so that's checked off. Call your buddies, invite friends and neighbors. And from that, guess where we're going now, Bill? Happy dollars. How about some happy dollars out there? All right, Stan, you're happy.
Does everybody know what this is?
Yeah.
Is that a tomato?
Pomegranate.
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 Okay, that's correct. Pomegranate. I have a pomegranate tree, and it's my first crop in 5 years. So that's
Wow.
$5, one for
All right.
each year. Maybe next year we'll get some more.
Are these new trees, or was it just?
The tree's been in the ground for about 5-6 years, and that's my first time I've had a crop.
Is that
Usually
normal?
It's flowers. You know, it's usually, I don't know. I really don't know. First time.
All right. Okay, more happy dollars. Paul.
I have $5 happy because I'm so happy that Al Pascal freely volunteered with no arm twisting, of course, right in front of the whole group, to take on the highway cleanup.
I
will
am
get
too.
the information to you today, Al.
Al saves the day again. All right, Alan, did I see your hand up? Go ahead.
Yeah, just got word a couple of nights ago that we're expecting our great grandson, our granddaughter, unknown yet, number 16.
Wow.
How happy are you?
How many dollars happy?
How many what?
How many dollars are you happy?
Oh, make that 5. Why is it 5? Yeah.
Okay.
Alan, did you say your 16th grandchild?
Come over here when you say it, Jack.
16,
Alan?
16.
They say they can't hear you real good unless you come over.
If you turn yours off and I turn mine on, you can hear me.
Okay.
All right, we'll go to Jackie next and then Bill Payne.
Okay.
Ladies first.
Move over. What, you gonna have me stand up?
No, here, sit down.
No domestic disputes here on this.
Yeah.
Okay, I have three happy dollars for my second grandchild, which was born on October 3rd.
Yay.
All right.
Three. I'm glad she wasn't born on the 30th, man.
October 3rd, okay. Where's she at, Jackie?
California.
Oh, okay, all the way on the other side of the world.
I think 3 is a little chintzy.
That's your problem.
Okay, Bill Pate.
Well, I'm going to pledge 7 to make up for Jackie being so cheap, and $5 from me because I am really happy. I am happy that I'm able to meet with you all once a week because you lift my spirits.
After 6 days with me, you guys lift his spirits.
It's like my spirits are here at 11 o'clock, but come noon, my spirits go up here. So I'm happy about that.
All right.
Okay.
And I'm gonna pitch in $5 because I'm happy to see Rick Hubbard.
Yes.
We
I
hope to
hardly
see a lot more
recognized
of you.
him. I just finally figured out that was him.
And he
It's
doesn't,
$5
he
for Rick
doesn't have
Hubbard.
that
You can add me
Maine,
in there as well.
he doesn't have that Maine accent right now. He didn't inherit that.
Hey, Paul,
Yeah.
you can add me $5 for Rick Hubbard. Yay.
Yeah. Good to see you again, Rick, and hopefully we see you, a lot more of you now that you're back home.
Thank you, sir. I have another $1.
Come on, Stan.
Stanley is going crazy.
Hey, listen, when it rains, it pours, all right, I'm gonna preface this by telling you a little story right quick. I was supposed to be reading in my living room and I fell asleep and my foot fell asleep and I woke up and I tripped over my foot that had no feeling. And I thought I broke my foot, my ankle, and I didn't. And I was so happy that unfortunately, I did the same thing again. And I'm just happy it's not broken. It's just a bad sprain. A bad sprain.
Oh,
I'm happy it wasn't the reverse, that your head fell asleep and you tripped over your head.
I think that was more than $1 worth, Stan.
That was a long story.
Come on now. Oh, slow down. Take it easy. Please, slow down. Slow down.
Oh, goodness.
Go ahead,
I'm gonna
Randy.
put in the other $5 that Stan should have put in on that.
Hey, see, it worked.
Okay, go ahead, Joan.
I have 5 happy dollars because a friend who is very sick apparently has turned the corner. Was taken off the ventilator and hopefully will continue to heal.
Excellent, excellent. All right, we'll move on. And right now we have a guest speaker with us, Dr. Russell Vreeland.
Chuck, Jackie's trying to say something.
Oh, go ahead, Jackie. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say that I couldn't volunteer for any of those running around jobs that Bill and Joan were offering because I'm having problems with one of my legs. So I can't do a whole lot of walking. So otherwise I would have volunteered.
No doubt.
Bill does a good job of shaming people, so he got what he needed.
I hope you get feeling better soon, Jackie.
Yeah, I need my leg so I can kick Bill.
Yeah. You need both of them to do that.
Yes, I do.
Okay, we'll go ahead now and we'll introduce Dr. Russell Vreeland. He's with the Eastern Shore Microbes. Reggie, do you have some information you want to pass on presenting Dr. Vreeland? You're on mute, Reggie.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Dr. Vreeland spent a lot of time at Westchester University, 20 years, I believe, and 2 or 3 years at New Orleans University as a professor. He is the founder of the program that you just mentioned, the micro program. And one of the things that it does is provides economic and environmentally sound options for treatment and disposal of industrial wastewaters. This, because, you know, that's a huge issue in this country and in the world for that matter, but for whatever benefits it does for the Eastern Shore, we really appreciate it. So, you know, without any further delay here, I'll let him tell more about himself as he gets started with his presentation.
Okay, Dr. Vreeland, you're on.
Okay. Well, let me start off by first off saying thank you for inviting us and inviting me and giving us an opportunity to tell you what we do. And maybe someday, I don't know, I see a lot of gray hair out there, and Joan would know what I'm also going to say, but perhaps someday we can come back and I can talk to you guys and give you some information maybe about the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary, which is one of my other hats, because we really do need assistance in terms of getting some new members and growing a little bit. There used to be 3 Coast Guard Auxiliary flotillas on the Eastern Shore. As of 2 weeks ago, there is now only one, and that is the one we have in Painter, and so we could use new members. But without any further ado, let me go ahead and start telling you about Eastern Shore Microbes, which is something that I uses a process that I discovered probably back when I was a graduate student back in the early 70s. And part of my development process while I worked as a university professor, in addition to other research, was looking into these things and whether or not they can do what I'd hoped they can do. Me. There we go. I must be saying the wrong thing. Somebody muted me out here. At any rate, when I retired and moved down to the Eastern Shore, decided to start this business, and seems to be slowly but surely working fairly well. I'm going to give you a quick rundown on it, and we'll speak beyond that. Let me see if I can share my screen here. Okay, can you all see that? A simple yes wave, good enough. All right. Okay, so let me go ahead and make this a presentation, and there we go. Eastern Shore Microbes is located in Belhaven, and we are really, as you'll see in a minute, a unique and sustainable wastewater treatment organization that we deal with brines and materials that other people cannot do. And you'll see more about that in a moment. There's some of our organizations, Virginia Biotech, Eastern Shore Chamber of Commerce, variety of other areas that we are part of. So Eastern Shore Microbes, I developed it based on this credo, and what I would have to say to you is a better way to live, okay? And that credo is, to start with, that says there is really no life on Earth. There is no life on Earth. And what it is basically that the Earth itself is alive. You'll see that, but I can give it to you very quickly. Nothing, human, nothing we are part of or made of is not from this planet. We are part of this planet. We are linked to it, just like our feet were in the sand and the soil, and we cannot get around it. So we try to treat the Earth as it is alive. We try to work with it as a living thing. People ask us, well, why does your process work? It works because this is what we are doing. We are treating things as a living planet. So let me show you a little more about that. Our primary process and product has this really long name, halophilic, salt-loving, evaporative applications and technology. We have abbreviated it there as HEAT. So you'll see HEAT as we talk. Our basic business is this. We literally are the only source for the treatment and disposal of industrial waste brine. Waste brines are not seawater. They are brines in water that contain salt, but the salt content of that water that they dispose of is anywhere from 3 to 10 times more concentrated than ocean water or seawater. Might sound like something you kind of shake your head about and you go, well, how much of that is there? The reality is industries in the United States, just the United States alone, produce 100 billion with a B gallons of this industrial wastewater every year. And the salt content means you can't put it out on a field because you kill the plants. The garbage and the salt that's in the water force it. You can't take it and put it out into a river because you contaminate the river. They're having a big problem with this now in Colorado, with the Colorado River. You can't put it into a sewage treatment system because you kill the sewage treatment system with the salt, even though there might be a lot of organics in there. So what do you do with it? Well, you basically have two options, three options. You can purchase really, really expensive equipment to try to treat it, but then that treats the organics and the contaminants in the water, but it doesn't treat the brine. Or you can take the brine, just as contaminated as it is, and you can put it out into a great big lagoon, and I'll show you some pictures of those in a second. You can put it out into a great big lagoon and let it sit there. And hope it evaporates slowly but surely and you get rid of it, but you're always producing it, so you're kind of stuck. Or the other thing that a lot of people do is they can take it and put it down into a deep injection well. And that's a out of sight, out of mind situation, except when you do that, you cause earthquakes. So they've been doing that in Oklahoma for 12 years now. And last year, Oklahoma had 2,500 earthquakes, one of which was strong enough to knock the facade off of the buildings in Oklahoma City. And they haven't had earthquakes in Oklahoma before this. They haven't had earthquakes in Oklahoma for over 1,000 years. So keep pushing it down a hole. Or you can use our process, and we are the only process that both treats and disposes of the water at the same time. We are entirely green. We need no infrastructure at any of our sites. Electricity, buildings, nothing. If the company has a lagoon, we can put our organisms into the lagoon and treat it. And we're working with lagoons and potentially talking with people who have lagoons that are 5 acres in size, 12 feet deep, hold millions of gallons of water. We have another client that we are talking with that has 670 acres of ponds, water, salty water. They've got billions and billions of gallons in there, and they just don't know what to do with it. They just keep putting it out into more and more lagoons. We also have the organisms, the microbes we use are completely non-pathogenic to a human. If you spill it on yourself, our recommendation is if somebody spills it on themselves, just wash it with fresh water and soap, and you're perfectly fine. We use only natural nutrient ingredients that we can pick up that are, in most cases, just as good as almost like a food for you. We can even use out of date or out of spec human foods that somebody else has to throw away. They don't have to throw it away. They don't have to put it in a landfill. We can take it and use it. We use only solar energy and metabolic energy to drive our processes in the various lagoons. And we are located in Accomack County. We have only one office in the world, and that's here. How does it work? Well, basically, our fertilizers, our cultures go into a lagoon. We stimulate development of a very large population of these microorganisms. We get to a point of we're having over 1 billion live cells per milliliter. Now that may sound like not much per milliliter, but it's 1 billion living cells in every milliliter of a lagoon that may contain between 5 and 30 million gallons of water. So there's 3,870 liters in every, or milliliters in every gallon of water, and multiply that by millions. And then we put in live cells that are 1 billion. So we have large, large numbers. We get them growing on the waste products in the water. They give off additional energy as heat, and that increases the brine temperature. If you increase temperature of something, it has to evaporate. If any of you are familiar with things like a compost pile, that's what heats up a compost pile. There's microbial activity on the material thrown into the compost pile. But at the same time, our organisms are all bright red. And I can, John, would you get me one flask? Just grab one out of the freezer. Yeah. Our cultures are all bright red. So when we put them into a lagoon, we turn the whole lagoon red. That biomass reflects the hottest wavelengths of light back into the water, and that increases the brine temperature even more. So once again, as long as we, oh, give me a really good red one. Oh, that's good. All right, I'll shake it up. So once we get it going and they're bright red, you get a combination of metabolic heat from the organisms, metabolic energy, plus solar energy, and you're heating the whole system a lot harder, a lot warmer, and you can cause evaporation to increase quite a bit. I have seen lagoons with this process in it, and smaller ponds, even lagoons, as much with a red organism in there, we've gotten as much as 20 to 25 degrees Fahrenheit hotter in the lagoon with our organisms than in the lagoon without. And I'll show you some data in a second. I'll tell you about that. But I have seen steam coming off of these lagoons in the system. This is what the organisms, I don't know if you can see it too well, but that's it right there. They look like that, bright red. And you'll see this in, like I said, in a system when I show it to you in a picture. Okay, continuing. So this was a lagoon that we did. It was 85 meters by 85 meters by 9 meters. It was filled with a salt that came out of hide curing. You'll see again pictures of that. We put them in the lagoon and we grew them up to an active level. And let me get my laser pointer here. There we go. Okay, so we grew them up and we got them growing in the lagoon. This was fresh water. This is what fresh water would evaporate over the month that over this particular month that we measured it. Their untreated lagoon measured about 60, 65 millimeters of water evaporated from it during the course of this month. But in the course of this month, the company measured almost 300 millimeters of evaporation from this lagoon. At 85 by 85 by 9 deep, or an 85 by 85 meter lagoon, that's about close to 4 acres in size on surface area. But here's the thing, this is data that was collected in Alberta, Canada in 1995 in December. So in December, our process evaporated almost a meter of water from their lagoon in 1 month. Normally it's frozen at that point, but this salt was so high that it's like antifreeze, it didn't freeze. So we just evaporated water. They called me up there. I was in Westchester at that point. They called me up on an emergency call. I flew up to Alberta, Canada, and went out there, and they said, "What's wrong with our pond?" Because they could see steam coming up out of the top of the pond. And I said, "Nothing's wrong with your pond. You're perfectly fine. Send the check back to Westchester and I'll see you later." So this works. And we've been doing it, actually. We've been doing it in Colorado and in Las Vegas. Winters, we can evaporate water, and we get it during the summer too. So we can evaporate the water all the time. Currently, here's a bunch of our projects. We have a project going on that we've just finished out in Colorado. It was really successful. We've accelerated their evaporation rate with a saturated brine. We added over 66% to the evaporation rate. The technical report, it says here it's in peer review. About a week ago, it was accepted, reviewed by scientists and accepted for publication in a trade journal. We're waiting on that publication to come out. We have a grant from the US Department of Interior, which is ongoing, to look at evaporating water from reverse osmosis processes out all along the Midwest. We are currently working on another proposal for an area called the Paradox Valley, which is a salt pollution problem for the Colorado River. Those of you who've been hearing about the Colorado River, Paradox Valley produces 160 million gallons of saturated salt water a year. And right now they're capturing it and putting it in injection wells, but the injection wells are being closed. So the current response is, oh, well, all we can do is throw it out into the Colorado River. And when the Colorado River is running fine, this salt, they produce so much of it that it'll actually raise the salt content of the Colorado River from, this is upper Colorado, all the way down. It'll raise it at Liberty Dam, which is the point where the Colorado enters Mexico. And it'll raise, they can detect 15 milligrams more salt in there just from this one valley. So we're working with them to work on a proposal to show them that our process can actually evaporate that water in a smaller footprint than what they think. We also are working with a materials company in Henderson, Nevada. We just finished a demonstration project, and they requested a proposal to treat all their lagoon areas. So we're working on that. That was a water that was contaminated with boron, manganese, and paraffin. And we've been able to degrade the paraffin, which they didn't even know they had until we found it there and said, we're degrading it. And they had to go back and look at it. We're working with another company with multiple sites. They have an site in Amarillo, Texas. They produce hide brines, and they just dump it out 5-10 acres at a time in their areas out there. We are working with another prime contractor to do an Army training base in Colorado, or in California, I'm sorry. And we're waiting on them to accept that. And finally, we have Arizona. We also have Arizona Public Service, which has requested a proposal from us, and that's in final review. This is the organization that has 670 acres underwater. And last week we were contacted by a group in Argentina that wants to represent us through all of South America, and particularly in the lithium industry, because one of the ways they make lithium is to allow the water to evaporate, and then they harvest the lithium. It turns out to be productive. A lithium mine has to have something like 6 square miles worth of lagoons taken up space, and we can probably do that in a third that space. So it's a significant savings in very, very, very sensitive lands. And that's really what we're after, is just we want to do this in an environmental way. A take-home note, though, for you folks and for people here is all of our clients are outside of Virginia. We are a trade industry in that you could not walk into our shop here and buy a bunch of microbes and a bunch of nutrients. All of our money, 100% of our funds come from outside Virginia back to the Eastern Shore. And we then spend our money here on the Eastern Shore. So we circulate the money, not like Walmart, where people buy stuff from Walmart, it goes off site, comes back, maybe there's some circulation. we do everything right here. Here's some of our value to the Eastern Shore. We buy all of our nutrients locally, and we're actually working now on producing some with local waste products, producing our own nutrients using some of the local waste products. We buy our insurance local. We bank local, our hardware, everything, even our uniform shirts. I'm not wearing one now, but we're doing that locally. We're currently renting 2 suites, about 1,600 square feet. We're going to move a little bit bigger. And again, we buy all of this other stuff. We're working on local shipping capabilities as well. We believe in the next few years, if all these things come about, we're going to be hiring a bookkeeper, secretary, receptionists. We're going to have laboratory staff. We're already talking with 2 young PhDs who are from other states that we will be moving here to the Eastern Shore. 2 PhD microbiologists, one that would be a laboratory, a second one that'll work in our production area. We will probably have a laboratory sort of head overview with also a master's degree in microbiology and chemistry, and then lab techs. We've got one that's working with us now, and we're looking for additional ones in terms of biology, chemistry backgrounds, QA, QC personnel. But at the same time, these are all laboratory people, so they're a little bit higher trained. My partner, John Long, is heading up the warehouse staff and production. He'll need a industrial microbiologist, but then beyond that, we'll be hiring people that are equipment operators, marketing and sales, probably 1 to 2 for our growth. We'll be needing field technicians at some point that we'll be sending off to some of these sites. And then we're looking at local contractors and construction managers as we go to our expansion. Our build out plan looks something like this. We have a current facility about 1,600 square feet. It's too small for some of these clients. If we get 1 or 2 of these people in, we cannot service them. Plus, we have a lot of equipment that needs 3-phase power, which we don't have in our present facility. We recently purchased a laboratory from an organization that was closing things down. And we've got a whole lot of high-tech equipment that needs 3-phase power, but it's currently in storage because we can't use it. We don't have enough room here to put it in, and it all needs 3-phase power or a little different water systems. So we're sort of stuck. Our current estimated needs, we're looking at facilities with about 1,000 square feet of space, a laboratory, analytical area, which would be unique on the Eastern Shore, between 3,000 and 5,000 square feet. We'll be producing culture, picture something like a larger brewery sort of thing, but we'll be producing large amounts of different cultures. All of our culture mixes are custom made for each individual organization and waste. So we'll be producing these things in different amounts. These are all estimates of what we think we need, about 10,000 square feet. We also have to produce nutrients and storage. What we do is we mix the nutrients and the organisms just before we ship it out. So our clients literally have the simplest system in the world. All they have to do is take a forklift, pick up a big 500-gallon or 275-gallon tote, carry it out to their lagoon, set it on the side of the lagoon, and open a valve. And everything else is taken care of. So we looking at another 5,000 there. And then we do want to have some sort of evaporation and testing area to test new clients and new ideas. One idea we have for some of these lower salt waters is actually to make these lagoons into gardens that are pollinator-friendly gardens, but are also evaporating water by putting their roots down into the water, essentially growing all these plants hydroponically on a 5-acre lagoon. So these people would walk out, have a 5-acre lagoon. They could sit around, watch the flowers, watch the bees, watch the birds, and eat lunch, which they can't do now. And then there's all sorts of other expansion potential that we think we could use if some of these other South America and We've been contacted by a group in Australia. So if some of these sorts of things start to come about, and Spain, that we will need to be bigger even than what we've got right here. This is what it would basically look like, folks. So picture this on the Eastern Shore, all right? It would be a facility with both treatment tanks and inoculating tanks to grow things. There would be a dry and nutrient storage area. Here's the offices, a library / laboratory, and an analytical processing area, all set up with a break room and some kitchen facilities for our people, storage racks, things like that, and just a big flat area where trucks could literally come through. We can put them together and away you go. We've got one that we're looking at. We don't know if we can afford it yet, but it's got 20-foot ceilings, which we need, has a very old office area that we would need to redo. The lab area we could make has walk-in coolers, 3-phase power, all this sort of secure testing area. And our plan is to do this literally on the Eastern Shore, probably in Accomack, since Accomack recently gave us an economic development incentive grant to make this happen. So this is all kind of in the works. Now, I want to show you some pictures. This is a picture of 2 lagoons. The one we are treating is on the right. This is, both of these, by the way, are 5 acres in size. This is an untreated lagoon, that brown kind of sick looking color there. This is our treated lagoon with the organisms. And at this point, I'm going to show you one picture in a second of this lagoon, how it started and what we did to it in 1 year. And the company decided they wanted to start flowing their wastewater into this lagoon. Now, this is a 5-acre lagoon. The company that we were working with had this 5-acre lagoon, this 5-acre lagoon on the left, and they built a third 8-acre lagoon. All 3 of the lagoons were filling up. We came in, and in 1 year, we treated this lagoon. The company looked at it and said, well, doggone it, maybe we can use this. So they started flowing 20,000 gallons a day into this lagoon, and they started in November. We were evaporating by the end of March when they sort of stopped this process or this demo and said, we want to think more about this. We were evaporating we had already evaporated a little over 50% of the water that they had added. And that is 20,000 gallons a day, starting in late October, all the way to March. We'd gotten rid of 50% of it out of one lagoon alone. And this company was looking at a situation in which they had 18 acres and now they only needed 5 to do what they were doing. The plant produced about 3,376,000 gallons of brine a year. In the first year that we had the process there, we evaporated 3,388,000 gallons. So we gained on them in the first year. And that, by the way, if you know, I think most of you will remember the year 2020. We started in October of 2019. We did our last visit there in March of 2020. And that's when both John Long and I managed to catch COVID as we were coming home. This plant shut down twice and we shut down once, but we still managed to do 100.4% of their production in that year. So we thought that was a pretty decent success story. This is actually what it looks like. This picture on the left here, this is the brine, the way they send it to us. That is hide brine. And it is just nothing more than smelly, dirty, brown water. It looks like chocolate milk. Within about 6 months, we took this out of our treated lagoon. You can see the light through it here. You got reddish color behind it. And then if you look at the 2 test tubes that are on the right picture here, this left test tube where the pointer is, that is brine taken out of that beaker. And this is the same brine after we've treated it, taken out of the beaker on the right. And if you notice right here, you can see through it. You can't see through anything on the tube on the left, but you can see through the tube on the right. And that's one of the processes, one part of our process. We actually are clearing the water. We're disposing of it. We reduce their chemical oxygen or their oxygen or their biological contaminant by 90%. And we increase the clarity of the water all during the same evaporation phase. So it works. It works really nicely for them. This is what this looked like. Here's this lagoon that we were testing. The water was lapping the sides of the lagoon, and they'd actually had to raise this up because they were going to overflow. This here is all fat from curing hides. They take a hide off of a cow and throw it into this water. And every hide produces an extra 2 gallons of water. So this is the picture in October 2019. By October of 2020, we had degraded most of the fat. And this here that I'm running my pointer along, that's a beach. That is a salt beach that appeared in the lagoon. We went from over 3 million gallons to just a little over 200,000 gallons remaining in this lagoon. And the other side of this is only one side of the 5 acres. The other side of this was even more extensive. So this is a tiny little area. And we did that in 1 year, the first year. All right, here's just a quick comparison of what happens here. So if you use a mechanical system or a natural system without our process, natural evaporation decreases as the salt content increases. The evaporation just naturally decreases, or you can put in a lot more energy. Some of these places will buy an enclosed evaporator system that they'll sell them, where we can do something for about $200,000 a year, 250 somewhere in there. They got to buy an evaporator that'll cost them between 2.5 and $25 million, and we saw one that was over 125 million. Then they have to build a separate building, hire people to run the unit, and input more energy to get the salt out as the salt concentration increases. In our case, the organisms love it. So the evaporation actually increases in our system as the salt content increases. The organics here, if you have any organics, it remains in the crystals. We degrade it into just safe biomass and some CO2. The minerals are highly contaminated. You can't use them for anything. The salt we produce is clean. You can use it right out as road salt if you wanted it. And we can even set it up so that a company that has like manganese or boron or lithium, they know where the lithium is going to come out and they can go harvest it without worrying about all the rest of it. Odors, boy, they stink. Those big lagoons, they smell really bad. We had a vice president walking next to one of those lagoons that I showed you a picture of, the untreated lagoon. And he said, boy, this really stinks. I thought you guys said you were doing it. And we said, sorry, you're walking next to the untreated lagoon. And we took him next to the treated lagoon. He couldn't smell it anymore. We degrade all the odors, so your neighbors don't even hear it or smell it. Acceleration here is chemical or physical, but ours is all natural. And there are side effects from all this equipment. I didn't show you pictures of it, but there are systems that'll spray the water up into the air. If you do that, you got to build a 50 to 100 foot tall fence all around your property to keep the spray from getting over on your neighbor's yard. But then the spray sits on your, contaminates your fence, and you got to go in once a year and clean it off with water. So you're taking one thing and going the other way. The equipment's breaking down all the time, it's cooling, and they all leave some sort of brine that the company has to deal with. We just produce a fresh, clean water that goes up into the natural atmosphere. And we produce a usable, saleable product that the company can actually use to help offset what we do. They charge us, but we leave them with the salt. We don't take the salt. We let them sell the salt as they wish. Okay, so that's Eastern Shore Microbes, and I'll be happy to take questions but we're treating stuff machines really can't. So, yes, sir, Mr. Payne.
It's Bill Russell.
Okay, Bill.
Couple of questions. Actually,
Sure.
I have about 10, but I'll just ask two.
Oh, that's all right. You can email me if you have others.
Okay, do you have a patent or patents on your process?
No, we do not. And the reason we don't, we've talked to about 3 different intellectual property lawyers, and all of them said the same thing, and that is you're not genetically engineering any organisms and you're accelerating a natural process. So you can't patent any of this. The protection we use is just, we keep our mouth shut. Nobody, no client gets to know or analyze what our cultures are, and they do not get to know or analyze what our nutrient recipes are for them. And then we have in our contract that we're allowed to change those things whenever we wish. So we actually do. We'll change nutrient recipes like now for the winter, because we have one mix that works really good in the winter, another one that works better in the summer. So we're constantly changing nutrient mixes and cultures for everybody. So it's a way of keeping it.
Follow up to that. So when you ship your 500-gallon tank, you control dumping it in the pond?
Pretty much. We sometimes do. Initially, we will, once they get used to it. We get them out there and open it up, but we account for everything we send them. And in fact, a year or so ago, we had one where we got pictures with a drone and other systems, and we counted the number of totes, and we said, wait a minute, we sent you 6 totes, we can only count 5. Oh, well, we put one we stored one. Yeah, you can't store one, put it out. And we made them put it out into the lagoon. So yeah, we keep track. And that's one of the things the field technician aspect will be, is we will be sending field technicians out like once a month to take samples and sort of count and make sure that they have done what we said they need to do.
Okay, I'll follow up with other questions. I don't want to hog.
I had a question.
I have one. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay. I was not real good at chemistry in school, but physics was something I was really interested in. And based on the theory that matter can neither be created nor destroyed, you mentioned lithium, which is a toxin to the human being. Something has to happen with what's being evaporated. Materials can either exist on the earth, in water, or in the air. It can't just be dissipated and it's gone forever.
Right.
So it sounds to me like you're accelerating the evaporation operation. And let's take lithium. All of a sudden you got more lithium in the air where it used to be in the water. So it just seems to me you're accelerating the toxins into the air. Am I wrong on that?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Okay, our organisms can't do anything with elements like lithium or sodium. What we are accelerating the evaporation of is the water in which those things are suspended. So we evaporate the water, and we take the lithium and or sodium and other compounds to saturation, where they then begin to form normal crystals on the bottom of the lagoons. Okay. In the case of lithium, it's actually a little more soluble than sodium. So what we do, one of the biggest things in the lithium industry is they get a saturated lithium and sodium solution, and their current process ends up with the sodium and the lithium all mixed together, and they got to pull it out, and they got to separate them in a process that's expensive, and they're up in the mountains of Chile and Argentina and other places. And they got to bring power in. They've got to turn it into something like a lithium carbonate. and then they got to get rid of the water. So they end up putting the water right back in their own lagoons. And they get this mess going on in this mix. So what happens is with our process, we can precipitate out the sodium and leave them purified lithium magnesium brine that makes it easier for them to concentrate the lithium in the plant. But we do not put lithium or other elements into the atmosphere.
Okay.
Okay.
And then one
Just the
other
water.
question, kind of going the other way now. Under our peninsula here, we have a freshwater aquifer that runs pretty much the entire length of the peninsula. The farmers use it to water their plants. We use it
Right.
for water, well water and so forth. Is there any impact with your process on the underwater or the underground aquifer that would run under the peninsula here?
No, we don't do evaporation here on the peninsula. We do it all out there. So we don't take any water from the aquifers here to do what we need to do.
Okay.
It's all out there. It's all done, now. Organizations out in the West could be taking water from their aquifers, in which case they're actually taking a saline water, making it into fresh water, and then taking a more saturated saline water and putting it down a hole. What we would be doing for them would be, we would be evaporating that water back up into the atmosphere. And we don't tell the people out West this, but they evaporate it up into the atmosphere, and it falls down as rain here on the Eastern Shore, which as far as I'm concerned, benefits our aquifer. Let's put it that way. But we don't pump any water up from the underground to do what we do.
No, I was talking about the other way. Is there any danger to our underground aquifer with seepage into the ground and then on into the aquifer of this wet sludge that's in these ponds?
No, not
Okay.
here. We don't have any ponds on the Eastern Shore that we would worry about.
All right.
Okay,
so-
thank you.
Can I ask just one question? I know
Sure, please.
running over. You addressed the patent question very well, but your cultures are effluent specific. At least that's what I took out of what you were saying. And
Yes.
how repetitive is that, or are you doing independent development work for each application that you come to? Because that really sets you up competitively in a really good position.
Right.
Just curious how unique each application is from a culture standpoint.
Okay. Well, first of all, we're maintaining about 1,300 different organisms, and we're always collecting more, so it's expanding. We do check the water from each new client to make sure that we can grow organisms in it. In fact, that's our first test, is to say to them, send us a gallon of water, we'll check it. If our organisms can't grow in it for whatever reason, we can't work for you. And so far we've only had one that's been an issue. We had a client from California send us water that was almost pure sulfuric acid, and that gave us a little trouble. We were able to grow some organisms in it, but it was a pain in the neck. And we didn't want too much of that being shipped back and forth across the country.
Right.
Right.
But anyway, we do make mixes, and we change mixes for each different client. So that, and in some cases, we have clients that may have multiple sites, like in Amarillo, Texas, and Idaho. The cultures that go to Idaho will not be the same that go to Amarillo, even though it may be the same client. And that's simply because we match it to the temperature, the season, and the type of water we're dealing with.
So what's the difference between your process and desalination?
Our process occurs naturally and in a lagoon. And we leave the salt behind. In desalination, you take in a brine or ocean water, and you separate the water so that you have on one side of the process, you have a much more concentrated salt water or a more concentrated salt water. And on the other side of the process, you have fresh water. You drink the fresh water, now you've got to figure out what I'm going to do. What am I going to do with the salt water? In our circumstance, we're desalinating the water, but we're leaving the salt behind in a lagoon, and the water goes up into the atmosphere, into the natural hydrologic cycle.
Okay.
The other thing that ours does that desalination has a problem doing is desalination plants like a reverse osmosis process, which I know Kate Charles is thinking about using. One uses energy from the electrical system. You have to put energy into it to get the water to do what you want in a desalination system. And organics like PFAS and other harmful organics may be left behind in more concentrated form in what's called the reject water or the reject side of the system. In our case, we would be degrading those organics, and we're actually trying to degrade. We're actually attempting to degrade. Excuse me a second. Okay, I've got another meeting coming up here, so as soon as I can. At any rate, we're attempting to degrade all that stuff and use it as a nutrient source. If a client sends us a water that's got contamination in it, we attempt to degrade the contamination and use their contaminant as one of our nutrient sources. And this goes back to the question that Mr. Diamond asked. That makes everything unique, right? So if you got one kind of organic contaminant, I'm going to send you an organism that's going to attack that organic in that plant. But if you don't have it in another plant, then that organism isn't going to be there to begin with.
Right, that's good.
Hey, Russ, one question.
Yes, sir, Stan.
Long time no see.
Yeah, how are your bees?
They're doing well.
Good.
I just wanted to congratulate you on your first started. Well, you first started on Eastern Shore, anyway. My question is, are you still keeping bees, or have you given up on that project?
No, I got 5 hives right now. I've slowly but surely increased again.
Oh, okay. I remember last time I think we spoke, you said we're getting rid of all your hives.
No, they all died, but I was getting rid of a lot of the woodenware. But you know, I'm a glutton for punishment. After 27 years of being a university professor, I retired and ended up being a businessman, and I'm not sure which one beats me up more. So,
congratulations. That's all.
Thank you.
Competitors. Okay, well,
And
Dr.
also-
Freeland, I understand you have another meeting coming up here shortly, so we won't keep you, but we certainly appreciate you dropping in today, and
My pleasure.
hopefully stay in touch, and we'll see how your operation proceeds, and wish you all the best of luck on it.
All right, thank you. And
Yes, Chuck,
Yeah,
we plan to get Russell back at another time to talk a little about some of the other aspects of what they do. I want to thank you as well, Russell, for joining us, and really appreciate the presentation, and it's very, very informative. And every time I speak with you, I realize how much I don't know about anything.
I do. By the way, our website, if you want to take a look at it and get a little more information and frequently asked questions. Well, a new one is under construction, but the old one is still there. It's www.esmicrobes.com. And yeah, you can check back in a couple of months, I hope, and it'll be a whole new one. That'll be a lot more informative even than the one that's up there now, with questions and other sorts of things. So, okay.
Okay. Again, thank you very much. And Bill, if we can slide up the 4-way test. We're running a little bit long, so I know people have things to do, like meetings. All right. For the things we think, do, and say. Number 1.
Is it true?
Number 2. Is it
Is it
fair
fair
to
to
all
all
serve? Number 3, will
Will
it
it
build
build goodwill and better friendships?
and 4,
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you all very much and have a great rest of the day and take care, and we'll see you again next week.
Y'all take care.
Bye.
Have fun.
Stanley got it in.
Yes, thanks, Dan.
That's right, Stan, I forgot. I'm sorry.
That's okay, Stan.